again to our online virtual Unity community as we affirm our spiritual oneness, even as we continue to physically distance in separate spaces and follow the speed of guidance in determining our regathering plans. I'm Reverend Vicki Elder, here with Reverend Michelle Jelinch and our Essential Sunday Service team, our music director Denise Hedlund with Richard Conklin on the drums, council co-chairs Robin Falkenberg doing platform and Martha Price doing live stream, and council member Larry Sykes, along with Keith Larson, helping with the soundboard and logistics. As is our practice, we begin by affirming that Unity of Monterey Bay is an inclusive spiritual community committed to co-creating an environmentally sustainable, spiritually fulfilling, socially just, and compassionate human presence on the planet. In recognizing our oneness, we honor the God of each of our understanding and affirm the innate good and divine essence within each and every individual. Will you please join me in our statement of faith? There is only one presence and one power in the universe, God the good, expressing as infinite God beyond us, intimate God beside us, inner God being us, divine love in action. And now we take a moment of prayer, setting our intention to come with open hearts and minds to this sacred time together, and breathing into this now moment with this prayer for deep listening by Jay McDaniel. In this day, and in any day, our deepest hope, our most tender prayer is that we learn to listen. May we listen to one another in openness and mercy. May we listen to plants and animals in wonder and respect. May we listen to our own hearts in love and forgiveness. May we listen to God in quietness and awe. And in this listening, which is boundless in its beauty, may we find the wisdom to cooperate with a healing spirit, a divine spirit, who beckons us into peace and community and creativity. We do not ask for a perfect world. We do ask for a better world. We ask for deep listening. Our source is infinite, love is our foundation, and so it is, and so we let it be. And now will you join me in our spring quarter affirmation, repeating after me. My heart knows well-being.
My heart knows well-being.
No matter the circumstances.
No matter the circumstances.
Releasing all fear, I rise.
Releasing all fear, I rise.
And so it is. Amen and amen. We again refer you to the announcements in the weekly shout out, and if you aren't on that email list, you can send a request through our website at unityofmontereybay.org. But I do want to note one thing that's coming up. We've made a change in the reading circle that will begin on Zoom Wednesday, July 1st. We'll be starting with the book, How to Be an Anti-Racist by Dr. Ibram Kendi, rather than White Fragility. We might be doing that one at a later date. So please check the shout out for pre-registration information or go to our website. And now we're going to take a moment to bless the children, those who are close to us and all the children around the world, as we open ourselves to their light, their joy, and their wonder, and join in our heartfelt blessing. We love you, we bless you, we appreciate you, just the way you are.
Shine. We allow all distractions to gently fade away as we invite the chime to call us into the sacred space within. We ring the chime 4 times to call in the 4 directions and to remind us of our interconnection with all of creation and with the sacred circle of life. As we feel it resonate through our very beings, we follow its call into this now present moment within. Continuing to focus on our breath, with each inhale, we open our hearts and minds. We envision our breath reaching every cell of our being. And with each exhale, we see all barriers and obstacles dissolving into the divine flow. And again, as we inhale, we expand the spaciousness within us. We move beyond the limitations and boundaries of our bodies. And as we exhale, we ground ourselves deep within Mother Earth and into our oneness with the universe. Finally, we breathe our awareness into the highest expression of love, light, joy, and peace we can imagine, as we experience a transforming wave of gratitude. And with a fullness of heart, we say yes to it all. Embracing, claiming, and knowing the divine Christ Spirit expressing in, through, and as us. And with a final exhale, we say, thank you, God. So now, fully centered and transformed by the power of Spirit, we enter into our lesson and meditation time with today's daily word.
And the word is Father's blessing. I invite you to allow my words to be your words. I give thanks for all expressions of fatherly love. My relationship with my father may have been positive and nurturing, or difficult and challenging. He may have been a strong presence during my childhood, or he may have been absent. We may be part of each other's lives today. We may be estranged, or he may have passed from earthly life. Whatever our circumstances, I bless my Father, and I see him enfolded in divine love. As I honor my Father, I also honor all the father figures who have helped guide me along my path. Family members, teachers, neighbors, clergy, employers, and friends. I bless them as I recall all the ways each one, in a unique way, has modeled strength, guidance, wisdom, and patience. Their presence remains with me thanks to their gifts of fatherly love. And from the scriptures, I have taught you the way of wisdom. I have led you in the paths of uprightness. From Proverbs chapter 4, verse 11.
Thank you.
witness to the wisdom of the many paths to the sacred, we read from 3 sacred traditions on this morning's topic, spiritual fatherhood. From Buddhism, I tell you, Sharutra, I too am like this, being the most venerable among many saints, the father of the world. I tell you, Sharutra, your men are all my children, and I am your father. For age upon age you have been scorched with multitudinous woes, and I have saved you all. Lotus Sutra 3. From Hinduism, God, give us wisdom as a father gives to his sons. Guide us, O much invoked, in this path. May we live in light. Rig Veda 7:32-26. And from Christianity, for all who have led by the Spirit of God are sons of God. For you did not receive the spirit of slavery to fall back into fear, but you have received the spirit of sonship. When we cry, Abba, Father, it is in the Spirit himself bearing witness that we are the children of God, and if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and fellow heirs with Christ, provided that we suffer with him in order that we may also be glorified with him. Romans chapter 8, verses 14-17.
That was awesome. An oldie but a goodie. So I just want to acknowledge we had 3 awesome dads doing that song. So happy Father's Day to Richard and Larry and Keith. And thank you for that beautiful old song, hymn. Good morning again. So glad that you are joining us this morning on this Father's Day Sunday. I'd like to begin this morning with a passage from the revealing word that you find if you look up the word God. So this was written by our co-founder, Charles Fillmore. God is that from which all love springs. His character is taught in the name Father, representing the love, protection, and providing care of God for man, his offspring. He is life and love and wisdom and power and strength and substance. Wow, there was a lot of he's and hims in there, right? So I'm just going to clear this away from the very beginning. We know that, at least in this tradition, we no longer use the male pronoun he, him, his to refer to God. And I just want to acknowledge that for some of us, when we see that reference to God as he or God as Father, we have sort of a reaction, right? Some of us have like a bit of a reaction to that. We maybe kind of bristle at what feels like patriarchal, language that seems to really exclude the feminine aspect of God. And so I just want to say that it's okay for us to have that reaction. We can own that and accept it. And it's part of unpacking our old beliefs, what sometimes gets called embedded theology. If that keeps happening, you might want to give me another. Sorry, we're having a little bit of mic. I don't know what's happening with the mic. So it's part of unpacking those old beliefs, that embedded theology, maybe teachings that we bring forward from our prior religious training or our upbringing in the church. And we can acknowledge the church's long history of patriarchy, and in fact, the erasure of basically not only individual women, but the divine feminine. We can acknowledge that history because acknowledging it is the first step towards healing it and integrating our healing and our issues around that. Sorry, we're just going to do a switch-o, change-o here because that's going to drive us all crazy. Okay, I don't know what we're going to do with this. Let's look at it in English. Sorry, forgive us. Okay. That's weird. It's never happened before with this mic, so. Okay, now I have two things hanging out. That's all right. Okay, am I? Here, she said she forgets that I move all around. Am I coming through this one now? I don't feel like I am.
Is it on?
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, there we go. All right, so, as I was saying, we can acknowledge those feelings, those reactions that we have to the male pronoun for God. It's okay. We can acknowledge that, and we can also work to heal that. But what I want to do is bring your attention to the crucial words in that passage that I just read. That Father represents the love, protection, and providing care of God for man, for humans. Because today is Father's Day. And it is a day of honoring, remembering, and celebrating both fathers and fatherhood. And so that love, protection, and providing care of both our earthly fathers and the spiritual fatherhood is what I would like to talk about today. So we're celebrating fatherhood today in all the ways that it shows up. Fathers of all shapes and sizes and species, because I'm going to start out with just a little thing about some animal fathers. You guys know I'm a nature freak. I like to share these. It's just for fun. But then we'll move on to talk about human fathers, our own fathers and grandfathers, maybe ourselves. And then we'll talk about spiritual fatherhood, that aspect of our relationship with God, which is somewhat like a child to a parent. Okay, let's start with the animals because they're fun. Did you know, and you probably didn't, but these are the random things that I know. When you homeschool your kid, your head gets full of all kinds of random knowledge. And when your kid takes Ranger Rick magazine, you guys remember that? It's still around. The male South American Darwin frog. He's an awesome dad. After the female lays the eggs, he protects them by, get this, swallowing them and keeping them tucked inside these special vocal sacs he has for 6 weeks. Can you imagine going around your babies in your throat for 6 weeks? Well, when they're ready to hatch, guess what he does? Literally vomits up his children. Isn't that great? Okay, you know how flamingos, there's like thousands and thousands of them? Well, even with all of these options for the men, they remain monogamous, and they only mate with one special female lady for life. I find that impressive. I don't know about you guys. It turns out that flamingo dads are also feminists, and they believe in gender equality. At mating time, the father flamingo helps the female find a nesting site and helps her build the nest. That's pretty cool. And then after mama lays the egg, the dad shares in the responsibility of sitting on the egg and incubating it. And they take turns for equal periods of time sitting on the nest. And then after the little baby flaminglet, or whatever it's called, has hatched, mom and dad share in parenting duties equally. So, we have flamingos as role models. And finally, the male seahorse. Now, we're here in Monterey, and we have the aquarium here. All of us probably know more than the average Joe about seahorses. But with seahorses, not only are the males monogamous, they're actually the ones that get pregnant. They carry up to 1,000 babies at a time. The female lays hundreds and hundreds of eggs inside the male, which he then helps to fertilize. Incidentally, and this is the best part, apparently pregnant male seahorses are known to show off their rounded bellies. Isn't that great? And it's called a brood pouch, and so they like to go and show it off when they're pregnant. So, hooray for these amazing animal dads. Now let's talk about human fathers. Our own fathers and grandfathers, ourselves. As the daily word reading said today, for some of us, it's a loving, supportive, wonderful relationship, and for some, it may be a relationship that is fraught with lots of issues. So, we want to acknowledge all the different kinds of fathers today. Let's think about some of the different kinds. The traditional father that works a 9-to-5 job and maybe I don't know if this even exists anymore, there must be some, comes home every evening to eat dinner with his family. How about the stay-at-home dad? I know there are some of these, who are the ones doing the laundry and the shopping and the cooking, and who take their children to soccer and karate and piano and all that. Let's honor today the widowed father, who is maybe adjusting to life without his beloved partner and is trying to carry on the duties of both mother and father for his children. I want to acknowledge today the poor father, low-income father, the unemployed father, the struggling father, who is perhaps working 2 to 3 jobs to try to feed his family, and maybe hardly has any time at all to spend with his kids. How about the immigrant father? Maybe who is stuck in an ICE facility and is separated today from his wife and children. The single mother, raising her kids by herself and playing both the roles of mother and father. So today we honor and we acknowledge all of these types of fathers, and we honor their struggle and their sacrifice. We cannot deny what is going on in our country and around our world today. And so I want to take a moment to honor the anti-racism and the Black Lives Matter movement by respectfully mentioning the many, many black men, many of whom are fathers, who are killed by police. DeVere Robertson was a father. On March 27, 2019, he and another man were shot by deputies while sitting in a car in front of an IHOP in Terrytown, Louisiana. The sheriff says it was part of a drug sting and that no shots were fired on the men until one of them put the car in reverse and backed into one of the plainclothes deputies. But the family says that's not their version of events and that there were no signs of drugs or guns found in the car. Regardless of what happened, 2 black men are dead and 4 children are left without a father. In a news report, Robertson's son, who's also named DeVere, is seen crying and saying that he's trying to remain positive because his father always taught him to be happy and to look on the positive side of things. DeVere Robertson was a father. George Floyd was a father. The 46-year-old Houston man who was tall, gregarious, a star athlete, and as a child once told his classmates, "I want to touch the world." After a string of arrests in his early 20s, mostly on drug-related charges, and a 4-year prison stint in his 30s, he worked hard to turn his life around. He became involved in his church and had a daughter. Eventually, a church work rehab program took him to Minneapolis, where he was killed on Memorial Day of this year, when a police officer knelt on his neck for 8.4 minutes, causing him to suffocate. Prior to his death, George Floyd had worked at a homeless shelter. He had also survived and recovered from the coronavirus. George Floyd's daughter, Gianna Floyd, is 6 years old. George Floyd was a father. Rayshard Brooks was a father. On Friday, June 12th, he fell asleep in his car at a Wendy's restaurant in Atlanta. Police came and he failed a sobriety test, and when he struggled with police when they tried to cuff him, somehow he was running away and was shot by one of the police officers. He was a father of 4. He had 3 daughters, aged 8, 2, and 1, and a 13-year-old stepson. In fact, he had been celebrating his daughter's 8th birthday just hours before being killed. Rayshard Brooks is described as a loving father, silly, with the brightest smile and the biggest heart. Rayshard Brooks was a father. There are many, many others. As we know, everyday black men are shot by police at a disproportionate rate to their white counterparts. And while it's complicated and the circumstances vary in every case, some are quite complex, the fact remains that in each and every case, a man or men is dead. A man who was a father, perhaps a brother, a husband, a son, a friend. Not only that, every day, black fathers struggle to teach their children how to be safe while out in the community, how to interact with law enforcement to avoid problems. And then they give them the talk. They tell them, don't act out. Stay away from bad places. Avoid confrontations. Black parents teach their kids how to be aware of their surroundings at all times. They teach them how to pay attention to a police officer's movements, how to calm or de-escalate a situation. They give the talk, and then they worry about their children every single day. If you are white and unaware up to this point of your white privilege, ask yourself if you have ever needed to give the talk to your children. So today we honor black fathers, those who've been killed and those who are raising children and doing everything in their power to make sure that they don't become the next Eric Garner, the next Sean Reed, the next Philando Castile, the next Michael Brown, the next Trayvon Martin, the next Breonna Taylor, the next Michelle Jelinch. So we honor today and we acknowledge the black fathers killed, as well as black fathers who will spend this Father's Day grieving the loss of their children. Today we honor these fathers by refusing to be silent, by refusing to turn away, by refusing to be complicit in our silence and in our ignorance. Today we honor these fathers by being witnesses to the truth. Okay, let's take a collective breath. Now I want to talk about spiritual fatherhood. That aspect of our relationship with God, which is somewhat like a child to a parent, created to the creator. Now we know it's not the totality of our relationship with God, but it is one aspect of it. This is the aspect of God as protector, creator, as strength, as guide. And spiritual fatherhood also encompasses the divine masculine, which we know resides in each and every one of us. It's that love, protection, and providing care of God for man, of which Fillmore spoke in the passage I read at the beginning. And it's also what our way shower Jesus demonstrated over and over again. He demonstrated and modeled this relationship with God. We know that Jesus spoke frequently of God as Father. In fact, in a couple of occasions, he used the term Abba. This is a much researched fact, but it's an Aramaic term that's believed to have implied a closeness, an intimacy, something akin to Papa or Daddy. Now, we know that God is not a man or an entity. We know that, right? And Jesus knew that too. I think he knew that. But he was modeling that intimate relationship with God. And he was modeling it for us. One in which God offers that love, protection, and providing care. Now, I realize that among those listening today, you may or may not resonate with this aspect of our relationship with God, and that's fine. It's merely one aspect of many. But you may find that this changes over time. I know it certainly has for me. When I came into Unity, I did not have a concept of God as Father. I was a feminist, and that just didn't resonate for me. But in my personal case, it has changed dramatically over the years, and I have come to cherish that aspect of my relationship with God. As I say, not the only part, but an important part of it. In Unity, we talk a lot about the three faces of God. It's what we say in our statement of faith at the beginning, right? So we have that inner God being us. That's the first face of God, God within. That infinite God beyond us. That's the third face of God. God without, God transcendent. And then we have that intimate God beside us, the second face of God. God as relational other, God as Father. In Unity, we also sometimes use the term Mother, Father, God. And we're trying to honor both aspects of God. Now, I realize we're still seeing it as, what do you call it? Not a dichotomy, duality, as if it was just mother, father, male, female. And we know better, that it's not quite that discrete. But, it's our attempt to try to be more inclusive of our understanding of God. Because we know that God transcends gender, transcends our human understanding of gender. The Fillmores, they wrote a series of statements of faith, and number 16 says, "We believe that creative mind, God, is masculine and feminine, and that these attributes of being are fundamental in both natural and spiritual man." So we know that the Fillmores understood this, that we have both male and female within us and within God. Ed Rabel, who's one of the big Unity metaphysicians, he explains it like this. Though the terms father, mother carry the connotation of physical, gender, or personality traits, when we use them to describe the nature of God, we are interpreting them metaphysically to represent ideas. We are speaking of God as both masculine and feminine principles of life. God is both wisdom and love, both power and substance. All elements are needed for the full expression of the creative and nurturing activity of God. So Jesus referred to God as the Father. And at first glance, we may think that we understand this, right? We may write it off as being a sign of the times, that was the patriarchal culture of the time, and that may be part of it, but I believe it's more complex and nuanced than that. Here are some examples, just a few short examples of how Jesus uses Father. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 23, verse 9, he says, "And call no one your father on earth, for you have one Father, the one in heaven." In the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 9, he says, "Anyone who has seen me has seen the Father." And again in the Gospel of John, chapter 14, verse 10, he says, "Do you not believe that I am in the Father, and the Father is in me?" And finally, in John chapter 10, verse 30, Jesus says, and this is the grand finale, the Father and I are one. So we know that Jesus demonstrates this relational, intimate relationship with God the Father, but also clearly has an understanding of oneness and of God within. I believe it is this multifaceted relationship with God that Jesus is asking us to step into. Sometimes in our effort to correct the God out there mentality, we often overcorrect and we end up completely excluding the relational notion of God. Over-focusing on inner God. Over-focusing on the first face of God. It's a pendulum swing, it's what we do, but we know that we need all three faces of God to experience the fullness of the expression of what God is. So we need that infinite God beyond us. We need that inner God being us. But we need that intimate God beside us, God as Father. Now, I have fully come to believe that each one of us experiences God and our relationship with God in a very different and unique way. It has also been my experience that my relationship with God, grows, expands, and changes over time. We may feel ourselves still reacting to the use of that male pronoun for God or referring to God as the Father. And it's really up to each one of us to do the work of acknowledging and examining and resolving and healing those reactions, as well as our feelings about the patriarchal history of the church. That's part of the work we need to do. But it would be a shame if we missed the richness of that relationship with God because we were stuck exclusively in a God within model. That rich relationship of intimacy, love, protection, support, and guidance that Jesus modeled and that he urged us to explore. In the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary, Charles Fillmore says, "There is a relationship with God into which we can enter where he seems closer than breathing and nearer than hands and feet. When we enter into this relationship, we become acutely aware of God as a living presence, and we are lifted up by his love. In this consciousness, we are able to say, as Jesus did, Father." And so, on this Father's Day, may God bless animal fathers, especially those monogamous flamingos. May God bless our own fathers and grandfathers, my own father. May God bless all fathers who are currently struggling with fatherhood. May God bless Black fathers. And may God bless your own relationship with the Father within. So I invite you to just get comfortable wherever you are right now, beginning to bring your awareness to your body that is either sitting here or lying here. Maybe you're lying down on your couch, just feeling that surface beneath you, supporting you. And begin to let go of outer distractions and begin to bring that focus to the inner. As we quiet the outer noise, we begin to become aware of that presence of God that is always there. It's not that it comes and goes, it's that our awareness of it comes and goes. And so we dedicate the next few moments to spending some time in that awareness. You can begin to lengthen your in-breath, breathing in deeply, and releasing slowly, exhaling, feeling yourself relax. Maybe taking another deep breath in, feeling that breath of life filling your body, and as you exhale, feel that letting go, that relaxation. You continue to breathe slowly and deeply as you feel yourself coming more and more into this present moment. Take a moment to listen to the sounds around you. Maybe the sound of silence. Sometimes if we get really quiet, we can actually hear our own heartbeat or feel it beating in our chest. Knowing that all of our hearts are beating together. And so we invite this presence of God right here and right now. We open our hearts and minds to the possibility of experiencing a relationship with God that maybe is different than we've had in the past. Fuller, more loving, more intimate. And we can call to mind the fathers in our lives, in our families, our neighbors, fathers all around the world. Just holding in our hearts and honoring divine fatherhood. That which creates, which protects, which guides. We can honor that divine masculine within ourselves and indeed within all beings. Those divine masculine attributes of wisdom, strength, action, power. And we honor the divine masculine within God. Opening ourselves more fully to experience God as Father, to be in sacred, intimate relationship with God, just as Jesus modeled. Allowing ourselves to be nurtured, strengthened, guided, and protected by that Father God, both within and without. And we can seek to fully express these divine masculine attributes in our own lives and seeing them in perfect balance with our feminine. That yin and yang, honoring both the masculine and the feminine. Seeing them in perfect, harmonious balance, always working for our best and highest good. And so I invite you to just rest for a few moments in contemplation of your own fatherhood, your own father, and the divine spiritual fatherhood for a few moments in the silence. We do so with our hearts filled with gratitude for these few precious sacred moments spent in communion with one another and with the God of our understanding. We give thanks for that one power and one presence always available to us that lifts us up. We give thanks for this spiritual community that supports us wherever we are on our spiritual path. We give thanks for this glorious day. In the name and through the power of the living, loving Christ, we say, Amen. And so it is.
Unity of Monterey Bay is the collective consciousness and commitment of all of us who give of our time, treasure, and talent in order to sustain this spiritual community that is dedicated to transforming lives. We know that prosperity is a state of mind that finds blessings in every situation and abundance in joyous generosity. We transform all appearance or fear or lack into a faith-filled peace of mind by shifting our attention to thoughts of gratitude for the abundance of God's good in our lives. And with our hearts and minds overflowing with gratitude, we breathe into the divine flow of God's good, trusting that we are enough, that we have enough, and that there always is enough to both have and to share. And again, we are grateful to all of you for your online giving through our website at unityofmonterey.org and through your mailed-in offerings, including those who have set up an automatic giving with your banking institutions. We are truly blessed. And now, from this place of faith and gratitude, I invite you to join me in mindful intention and joining in our offertory blessing. I am an open channel for God's infinite good. Divine love flowing through me blesses and multiplies everything I give and everything I receive. I am both blessed and a blessing. Thank you, God.
So in honor of Juneteenth, we like to sing Lift Every Voice and Sing. And if you don't know the words, that's okay. You can hum, or you can sing ooh, or the word love. It's just as powerful.
Or Google.
Or Google them. Lift every voice and sing. And it comes up quickly under the Black National Anthem.
Medici, I should know. Richard Burdick for allowing us to use and stream their music during this time. So as we prepare now to begin our service to a close, we are so grateful that you have joined us this morning, and we hope that we've made you feel at home in our Unity of Monterey Bay community. And we want you to know that wherever you are on your spiritual journey, you are welcome here. Our unityofmontereybay.org website has a prayer request link that you are invited to use. And please know that our chaplains are holding the High Watch during this time, meeting weekly to pray over all the prayer requests that come in and to pray for our community and for our nation and for our world. And know that when you send that prayer request, if you leave an email or messaging way to reach you, we can get back to you that way if you desire a response. Vicki and myself are also available via email, which is in your shout out. And don't forget, Silent Unity is available 24 hours a day by phone, email, Silent Unity app, or Alexa. Alexa, open Silent Unity. Let me know if anybody's did. Drunk with power. We will once again today be having our virtual coffee hour after the service. service at 11:15. Again, the link should be in your weekly shout out. Please join us for just informal discussion and, just seeing each other's faces, really, even if they are in those little rectangles. Hey, who has Zoom exhaustion? This is a new term I heard this week. Zoom exhaustion. That's when you are just on Zoom all the time and you're over it. Okay, before we close, I'd like to share in closing this prayer for the wounded heart of humanity, which came from Unity Worldwide Ministries. We call upon God's love in this important moment, knowing that divine love is the greatest power in the universe. We pray for the wounded heart of humanity as we grieve, rage, cry, and despair over injustice and inequity. May divine love enfold and comfort everyone who is hurting. May divine wisdom guide each person and institution in taking inspired action to ensure that all are celebrated for their inherent goodness as a part of God's creation. May we remain resolute in walking the course of human rights and social justice for all. And all of this we pray in the spirit of unity, love, and oneness. Amen. Please join us now as we form our closing circle for our prayer for protection and our peace song. And know that the circle continues here at Unity of Monterey Bay, and you can see yourself as part of this circle and know that we are holding all of you in this circle with us this morning. So will you please join with me in our prayer for protection? The light of God surrounds us. I am the light of God. The love of God enfolds us. I am the love of God. The power of God protects us. I am the power of God. The presence of God watches over us. I am the presence of God. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. And just have a blessed day and a blessed week, and again, happy Father's Day.